Hi again. Okay, so I left off talking about right around the age of 14, my freshman year of high school. I have just started living with my mother and her fiance, who is the same one that she went sailing around Belize and all over the joint with, and was living in a town, Chelan, Washington, like 3 hours away from where I was. So the same person. So, so this was very interesting, but also what happened at this time, right around this time, was the person, my dad's second wife. I would occasionally go and spend time with them, with my younger brother and his siblings, who were my step siblings, but then weren't anymore because of divorce. And so one night they invited me to a hockey game, to the Spokane Chiefs hockey game, and which is a major junior team in the WHL, which is a part of the CHL, which is basically the largest pool that I would say probably the largest pool that the NHL pulls from. So it's pretty good hockey, but I went to my first hockey game right around, 13, 14. And what I experienced, I really could only call love at first sight. I just loved it. I was like, what is this game? This is amazing. I have to play this. So one of the very beautiful silver linings to me going to live with my mom and her having a better financial situation than my father did was that she, being with her allowed me to play hockey. So when I was right around 14, I remember she took me to Play It Again Sports, and we bought some skates, and she enrolled me in a Learn to Skate program at Planet Ice, which is no longer there, sadly. They got rid of it. And later on, I ended up moving like a 5-minute drive away from Planet Ice. But that was after it was no longer Planet Ice anymore, which is just really tragic. But anyways, so started taking skating lessons, and I think I dropped out because I remember very vividly it was me being 13, 14, and then like 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds. So it was, for me at that time, and my social issues, anxieties, extreme insecurities and self-consciousness, couldn't handle it. I was like, this is humiliating. I'm not doing this. So I started instead going to just open public skates and teaching myself how to skate pretty much. And then from there, I met some pretty cool people. My mom was able to take me. I think my mom wasn't working at this time. I think her being with the fiance and the partner that she had, I don't think she was working. I think they were building a house and she was working on the house quite a bit. I'm pretty sure she wasn't working at this time. Anyways, so I just remember her taking me a lot. Like I would go, I don't know, at least a few times a week, skating. And so I got really familiar with the rink staff and the regulars that would go, and they were basically all cheering me on. So I got a lot of support, and I ended up starting to go to stick and pucks, which is basically an open public skate, but with sticks and pucks. So you have to wear full gear. And I started going there, and I met more people. I met my first boyfriend there. I also met a really cool guy who was just older and just helped me out a lot, and like taught me how to stop. He gave me my first jersey with the number 33, which became my lucky number till this day. It's my lucky number. And just a really beautiful, like, there are a few really beautiful things from my childhood, and hockey is one of them. Camping with my aunt and uncle is another one, and then even camping with my dad is something I didn't bring up in the first video, but I was reflecting and I'm like, it wasn't all horrible. But of course, those are the really emotionally charged things that imprinted on my brain and in my body and in my cells. So so my dad, and he had a really good friend who was a really, really close family friend of ours. For most of the time that I lived with my dad, they were there until they moved to Nevada or California. I can't remember which one. Anyways, so we would go dirt bike riding. So I always had like half the time my dirt bike. So my younger brother, who was really into it, got like the fancy new dirt bike, and I had always like a secondhand, like half broken dirt bike that half the time when we got up there wouldn't work, and my dad would spend like half the time working on the bike that was my bike. So that kind of sucked. I always had this like little, like my first dirt bike was a 1975 like XR75 like dirt/road bike. And my brother's was like, at the time, I don't know, like the new 2000 something like CR125 from the brand new Honda store. Like it just, I guess I'm naming that because I think it speaks to just this overall sense of like some of the wounding of my inner child, is just this like, I'm not worthy of having nice things. I'm not worthy of being protected. I'm not worthy of being treated as an equal. And I just, that pattern happened over and over and over again in my childhood, and it really became an inadequacy complex, a huge issue with worthiness later on, or maybe even at that, I became aware of it much later on in my adulthood. Anyways, so regardless of having the hand-me-down bike, I did still get to ride dirt bikes and enjoyed it and had a lot of fun with those camping trips as well. I was absolutely a tomboy. I was around all men. There were like, I guess like this family friend on my dad's side, she was there as a feminine influence. But that was really it. Like it was me and my dad and his friends and my younger brother, and like there was just no feminine, like really no feminine energy in my life other than like sporadically here and there. So anyways, okay. So started playing hockey around 14. That was a huge, eventually ended up playing on an all-girls team. I was horrible. Some of the girls did not like me because I sucked. I remember specifically in one of our games, wow, this is interesting. I don't know that I like really made this click for me, or like made this click in my journey. Again, part of the reason why I'm doing this like video series here is to just like get it all out. But I remember in one of the games, this girl, most of the girls that were on the team that I joined had been playing since Pee Wee League, since they were 3, 4, 5 years old. And the ones that hadn't had at least been playing for at least 2 years. Like, I was brand new, just barely learning how to skate still, like really, and had never played. Never, other than stick and pucks, I'd never played an organized game. So this was my first thing. And I remember one of the games, I was like not doing well, obviously. And like, I don't remember exactly what had happened, but I remember coming off the bench and literally one of the girls was complaining to the coach while I was on the bench that she should go out instead of me because I was screwing it up, and that she could help us to win. And or whatever it was, I don't know, I think she was just pissed because I was there and not good and she was better. So yeah, that's also interesting. Also plays into that whole like, right, I'm not good enough kind of thing that I experienced. So, or I'm not worthy of being here. I'm not worthy of taking up space. I'm not worthy of showing up if I'm not perfect or good enough or skilled enough or blank enough. This continues to show up in my life. So it's been a really big joy to, as an adult, heal this now. Yeah, so right around the age of, I think that's pretty much it, for like the 14, 15 era range, right around 16, I would say. My mom ended up splitting from her fiance, and so we moved once again. I didn't really have a stable home. I was moved quite a few times. It felt like every 2 or 3 years I was moving, with my dad and then with my mom. I just remember really wanting a stable house, like really bad. And that was just not something that I really had. So we moved into an apartment, and my mom and I. And at this point, when I started getting my first, when I turned 16, I basically, I just became super independent. Even before, like the month before I turned 16, I went to Old Country Buffet, which is kind of like Golden Corral, and started applying. I was like, the second that I become legal to work, I want to work and I want to make my own money. Because I was so tired of being at being dependent upon people that really I couldn't depend upon for much. So I really wanted to make my own way from a very young age, and that was the only thing that I really cared about. And so at that time, and so I got a job, I got my license. My mom also did put me through a driver's ed course, so that was nice. That was something my dad couldn't afford. And so I was able to get my license. My dad did help me get my first car. It was $350. We got it from it was like a used car lot. It was a 1987 Honda Accord hatchback. So yeah, it was $350. We got it, and there was some stuff that needed to be fixed, like a new radiator and something else. And so we fixed it up, like a headlight was out, I think. And that was my car. And so I started driving, started working. Um, yeah, I stopped playing hockey at this point. I think part of that was because I I think I just wasn't resonating on the team. I think it was really hard for me to be on a team where my skill level was so far behind their skill level, and any there was one of the assistant coaches that was kinder on me, and a couple of the girls were kinder on me, but there was just this like overall energy where I just felt like unwelcome. And um and I think that was because of the skill, like my skill level versus their skill level. And it wasn't like there were, in this setting, it wasn't like there were numerous teams or numerous skill divisions for this league or whatever. Especially not in the town that I lived in. So anyways, and then also a little bit of it was just, I just started working and started having my independence and just kind of wanted to do my own thing. So started working at Old Country Buffet. At this point too, right around here, I had broken up with my first boyfriend. I think we probably dated for about a year and a half. So like 14 to probably like 15 and a half, somewhere in there. And anyway, so when I started working, I met another boyfriend. I guess my second boyfriend. I don't know. I think I did a little bit of dating in there. My second like serious boyfriend. And we were dating for a while, and I ended up getting pregnant. I started having really bad pain in my like womb space, and I told my mom about it, and we went to the doctor, and she basically came in. I think it was a she. I don't remember actually who the doctor, maybe it was a man. I don't remember. Anyways, my mom and I went to the doctor, and they were like, is there a chance that you could be pregnant? And obviously the answer was yes. My mom and I had never talked about birth control, never talked about anything. There was a time, one of the weekends before I lived with her full time, one of the weekends that I was over there, she caught me masturbating effectively, like rubbing up against like the edge of something. And she basically was like, if you do that, you she told me, if you do that, it's going to damage your organs and like your workings, and you're going to have to pee into a catheter. You're going to have to pee into a bag, like if you do that. And so there's like a whole weird sexual thing that I've had to like overcome, and honestly probably still have work to do. But anyways, so just talking about sex, talking about birth control, talking about any of that was not something that happened. And so here we are in this doctor's office, and it's like, okay, well, I'm pregnant now, so cool. It turns out they referred me to an OBGYN, and started going to the appointments, and found out very quickly that my, I believe it was my HCG levels were off. They were not like reading the way that they should. And so come to find out, it was an ectopic pregnancy, which means that it was basically stuck in my fallopian tube, which part of me thought that maybe this was from me masturbating. Like maybe I had squished my fallopian tube or something, which pretty sure is not how that works. But anyways, my poor, like, young coming of age self didn't know any better, and in fact was told that by my parent. So, yeah, ended up having to get surgery. We tried a couple of times. There's an injection that they can do to kind of like dissolve it or whatever. And we did that a couple of times and it didn't work. I was still pregnant, and so they had to go in and I had to have surgery, and they had to surgically remove the pregnancy because it can't grow in your fallopian tube. It will rupture and hurt you, and the baby can't. Anyways, so yeah, that happened when I was 17. Very traumatizing. And then shortly after that, I was very depressed. First of all, I didn't mention this. I remember I have a very distinct memory when I was 13 years old of emailing my mother and my aunt and saying, I think I have depression. I have struggled with depression probably my whole life, or like at least since 13. But I imagine it started and I just didn't really think anything of it way before that. I was alone. I was a child and I was alone so much of the time. And I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't do well socially. Like, I didn't have a lot of positive influence around me. I had a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs and a lot of just like not super great influences around me. So, wow, I totally lost my train of thought. We're talking about the pregnancy. Wow, how did I just tangent? I just lost the main thing. Okay, sorry. Maybe I'll edit this out. Maybe I won't. We'll see how long it takes me to get back to where I was. Well, anyways, after the pregnancy, got it, depressed, surgery. So I was like really, really depressed after the surgery. First of all, it was a horrendous fucking experience. Like, I was in pain for most of the time. It was really painful to be in that situation. And the surgery sucked. After the surgery sucked. And it was just sad. The whole situation was just sad to me. And painful, obviously. So shortly after, I don't know how long, but I swear it wasn't that long. Like, could have been like a month after my surgery or 2 months after my surgery. Not very long. I discovered that my boyfriend, the one who had gotten me pregnant, was now cheating on me. This was back when there was like the MSN Messenger, and he was staying with me and my mom quite a bit. And so he would use our computer, and one day I go to get on the computer and he wasn't there, but he left his like stuff up, and there's this like messenger chat history of him talking to this chick on the north side. Anyways, so ended up figuring out basically, and our relationship ended, and then I just kind of recovered. I started working full time. I started cleaning houses full time while I was in school and finishing up school, and I started saving money from that job because I was going to an alternative school. So my schooling was I believe it was Tuesdays and Thursdays from like 9 to 11 or something. I don't remember exactly. And then I would just do the work at home. So almost like a homeschooling program. Anyways, I worked the rest of the time. And so I left Old Country Buffet and started cleaning houses. Way better money. I was doing that, saved money. When I graduated high school, which was early, it was right around my birthday, which is in March, which is, 2 or 3 months before the full end of the school year. So it wasn't that early, but anyways, graduated early, and I was like, I'm getting out of Dodge. I'm going to the big city. I'm going to Seattle. Didn't want to be in Spokane anymore. Really didn't have roots in Spokane. I had one really good girlfriend for pretty much, we met in elementary school. We met in 5th grade, and she was my best friend pretty much all the way up until I think our senior year in high school. And we had a pretty big falling out. And so and obviously I didn't have a good relationship with my parents. And I just wanted to, I have always felt called for something more than what I experienced growing up. And so I wanted to try it out. I wanted to go and see and try to make something of myself. I had no plans for college. College was not something that I remember being discussed with me, other than maybe in a school setting a little bit. I remember briefly wanting to, thinking that interior design was really cool. But I don't know if I talked about it to someone, or where the idea came from, or got planted in my head directly, but, and maybe this was just a generational, part of a generational, limitation that got put on me. But it was very much you can't make a worthwhile career out of interior design. And so I just didn't go to college. I didn't love school. I didn't necessarily want to have a more schooling experience, especially because you can't, at that time, it wasn't in my field of awareness that you could do online. This would have been in 2009. So I'm sure it was around, but it was just not something that was talked about. It was not something that at that point I was interested in. It's not like it was something that my parents did. And so, yeah, I was taught how to work. Both of my parents worked a lot. One had one job that they did for themselves, my dad, and he worked 12 hours a day at least. And then my mom, like I shared, for most of my childhood, worked 2 jobs. The only time she didn't was when she was with her fiance, who I think helped her out a lot financially. But other than that, she was working 2 jobs most of my childhood and adolescence. And so it's just something that was that's just where I came from. That's just how you humaned. That was a conditioned piece. So that's what I did. I moved to Seattle, and the Seattle area. I stayed with my aunt and uncle and cousin in that area, and blew through my savings in 3 months. It was hard for me to find a job. Eventually, I ended up getting a job at Home Depot in Redmond, Washington, which was brilliant because I got hired just before, in the spring, going into summer season, which is absolutely the busy season at Home Depot. And so I was getting full-time hours for probably close to 6 months. And then as it slowed down in the fall, it got cut way back. And all of a sudden, all of the summer kids, like all of the kids basically, like me, I was 18, got way pulled back on hours, and the people that were like full-time associates or that like actually had seniority, there got the hours. And so I had to go find a second job, and that was working as a barista in a Starbucks inside of a Marriott hotel in Bellevue, Washington. So that was super fun. So I worked 2 jobs for a while. Eventually, in the parking lot of the Home Depot, there was a Fred Meyer, which is a grocery store. It's owned by Kroger. So like Kroger, Ralph's, Harris Teeter, Fred Meyer, like it's under the umbrella of Kroger. And they had a Starbucks within the Fred Meyer. And so I was working at Starbucks already in Bellevue, which was a pretty good commute for me because at the time I lived in North Bend, which was kind of close. There was like a back way into Redmond. And then Bellevue was kind of like, I don't know. It was just out of the way. And the manager at the Starbucks that I worked at, like, also just, I don't know, kind of turned on me, I guess. So I wasn't, eventually after like a year of doing, I think it was about a year, I just like wasn't happy there. And there was an opening for a barista at the Fred Meyer. And I'm like, that would be so sweet if I could just work at both of these stores in the very same place. And so that's what ended up happening. And then not long into that, there became a position open for the lead. Basically like the manager of the Starbucks kiosk within the Fred Meyer store. And I got it. And I did amazing. My district manager loved me. My food manager, which was like the store manager basically of Fred Meyer, which technically I was a Fred Meyer employee, not a Starbucks employee. So there was like 2 bosses because there was still a Starbucks boss making sure that we were adhering to Starbucks standards. But then at the same time, there was like a more daily boss that was in store. Anyways, she loved me too is the point. And so I was doing that and I was doing really, really well. Every time we got visits, it was going well. The environment was going, like the culture was pretty good on the team considering, it was just nice. It was nice. And then my food manager, basically presented me the opportunity or planted the seed that I could get into management at the store level. So breaking out of the Starbucks world and going into the grocery management side. And that was huge for me because she was recognizing and saw my work ethic and my potential. And maybe other than my Starbucks district manager who adored me, and did give me like a vote of confidence, my Fred Meyer manager, it was just a life-changing moment. It was just one of those moments where someone gave me the benefit of the doubt and saw something in me and helped me get into the management program. And so that's what I did. And so I entered into a management program it's like a a course that it's like an 8-week course training program that they put people through that want to get into the management side of things, the food management. So that's what I did. That was pretty amazing. Did that, ended up working. So this was in, I don't know, I started working for Fred Meyer, oh goodness, probably, I think in 2010. And I left in 2017. Yeah, I was there for seven and a half years or so. And so throughout that, so I got into grocery management, super hard, super difficult. That was really hard for me to do because a lot of people that get into grocery management come from grocery. And the only experience that I had was cleaning houses, working at Old Country Buffet, working at Home Depot, and being a barista. So I never actually worked in a grocery store setting. And a lot of the people that did, or like that were in that program or that got into management had some grocery experience. And I just technically didn't. So I had to learn how that worked in addition to learning how to manage people. So I was juggling both of those things at the same time at a very young age. I was like 19. So the first couple of years of doing that was very difficult. And I remember specifically, I was doing training at a store. I was thinking / hoping that I would get to train with the manager that put me up for the program, and I didn't get to do that. And so I had to go to another store and work with another food manager who was this woman who I did not get along with. Because I don't know why this is probably not super relevant, but the memory did surface for me a couple days ago because I think it plays into my relationship with the feminine a little bit. And also just my experience of like feeling like the world does not operate the way that feels natural to me. Because I got into this, the whole point was that this was a training store. It was set up to be a store that trained. And I got into it thinking that I was told that this is how the program worked and that I was going to be doing 4 weeks of training there, and that here was the curriculum or whatever of what I was supposed to be learning. And instead of doing that, I got put to work. So my training labor hours were being used to, rather than train, to just work and be extra labor for their store that they didn't have to pay for at a store level, basically, because this was a training at a district level that was like paying for the training hours. It wasn't store training hours. That makes sense. Anyways, it wasn't happening. I wasn't being trained. I was being told, you go spend your shift doing this, 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 and this. So like in a sense, I was getting trained on the grocery perspective of like being a grocery worker, but there was no management training, which again was laid out in a curriculum. And so I reached out to I think I brought it up to the woman who was my manager at that store, and just nothing happened. And so I reached out to the district trainer, who was the one that I spent the first 4 weeks of my training with, and I just said, hey, this is not happening, and I just want to make you aware. And so it just, because I wasn't getting the training that I needed, and that created a big rift. She was pissed at me for that. I remember her pulling me aside and chewing my ass out for the fact that I went up up the chain and was like, I'm not getting trained, and advocated for something that I needed. And so, yeah, it just sucked. It was just a really hard experience. I really struggled in the first couple of years of being there, but I stuck it out, and I ended up being like a third assistant for a long time. It was really hard. I basically worked 2 to midnight, which very often turned into like 1 or 2 a.m. And because I was like struggling, I worked through my lunch a lot. So I worked when the whole time I worked at Fred Meyer in a management role. I probably averaged about 60 hours a week, because the baseline was 45, but I like very rarely took a lunch. If I did, it was like, I smoked for a lot of the time that I worked at Fred Meyer. So it was like, go get a Pepsi or a Red Bull and like a bagel, or like just like something really small and quick, and like go outside and like smoke a cigarette, eat a bagel, smoke another cigarette, and go back to work. Like that's what my lunch was most of the time. So that I could get my work done, and be able to close the store in a way that that reflected well on me, because there was a lot of responsibility in doing that and setting the store up for the next morning. Anyways, so I stayed in the area, nothing really more exciting. I played rec hockey for most of the time that I was doing that. I was able to work with my manager to get Sunday nights off so that I could go play hockey. So that was really nice. Yeah. Ended up, I guess there's one more significant thing. I did end up dating someone over there right around this time that we technically got engaged. We went down to Portland because there's no sales tax in Oregon, and buying an engagement ring from Fred Meyer Jewelers because I got like, I think a 20% discount. And then, yeah, that relationship ended. So I was technically very briefly engaged. Very sweet man, but I was nowhere near, I was like, there was no healing that had been done for me. And I was like 19. I was 19 and 20. We dated. We had gotten an apartment together and were living together. And it was a very beautiful relationship. There were challenges in it, but he was just a very, very wonderful man. Love him so much. He still is like one of my favorite boyfriends. I could have married him and it would have been a wonderful life, honestly. But I just I didn't have the awareness at that time that that's what I had. Like truly one of those, like, you don't know what you have until it's gone situations. I was 19, 20, 21, barely getting into 21. I remember being like upset that I couldn't go out and drinking with him, and being like insecure about that and feeling left out about that. So that like, it was just like stuff like that kind of caused issues in our relationship, because I just didn't have the maturity and I just wasn't healed. I hadn't done any healing work at that point. Didn't even know that was a thing. So that was kind of significant. But anyways, after about 4 years, so I lived in the Seattle area for about 4 years, and then I really wanted a house. That has kind of been like one of my biggest dreams from childhood was literally to have a loving, warm, stable, secure family and home. It's like just the biggest part of like what I have wanted for my whole life, because I just didn't have it. And I looked around and I had friends around me and just like teammates around me, and even like my younger brother and his family. My dad's second wife, she ended up remarrying, and she's still with that person, and so they have built a really beautiful family, and been in like 2 houses in the past 20 years or something. I don't know, more than that. Anyways, it's just been something that I never had, but saw other people have, and I just have wanted really, really badly. And so that was something that I had been chasing for most of my life. And anyways, so I was wanting to get a house, and the Seattle area is very expensive for someone who, I was making probably close to $50,000 at this point. Yeah, and I was like 22 probably. Yeah, I moved, like 18 to 22, I lived in the Seattle area. So anyways, I was like wanting to get a house, and I'm like, if I stay in this area and I'm a manager, they can send me at any point to any store, and I can only afford a house like way on the outskirts of anything. And so there's a very good chance that my commute to any one of these stores from a location that I could afford would be like probably about an hour and a half one way, which, coming from Spokane, which is a smaller city, like we just have like one highway running through Spokane, I-90, and that's it. That's the freeway that runs through Spokane. And so you can get from one side of town to another in 30 minutes. So the idea of spending an hour and a half one way and an hour and a half or an hour home was just insane to me. It was just insane to me, and it was just not something I was willing to do. Anyways, so moved back to Spokane. I actually had a boyfriend at this time. I had been living in Linwood, Washington by myself, because after I had broken up with my boyfriend that I was engaged to, fiance, whatever, we had separated, and we were living together, and so I went and got my own apartment in Linwood, Washington. It was so precious, but I had started dating, I don't know how long after that, but I had started dating another person who, when we first met, was an EMT, and like a month into us dating, he had like, I don't remember what it was. It was like something, he had gotten like a pretty severe back injury. And so we had been dating and liked each other, but he basically went on medical leave and eventually ended up having to get surgery. And so he never ended up going back to work. And he was staying over at my place a lot. And he just had a really nice family. And I just, I really loved him. I mean, I really loved all of my partners that I've had, but again, this was someone that I like really saw a lot of a lot of potential in, especially for, to fulfill my desire of having a really lovely family and a home. And, but my perpetual wound that I was creating was looking at the potential in people and not looking at the reality of who they're being in the moment. And so he ended up, I think, with his own challenges, physical challenges, obviously, and then the mental challenges that came along with that, just never ended up working again. And so I was ready to move back to Spokane, and he had not been working. And I said, I'm going to go move back to Spokane, and you can come with me if you think it will be easier for you to get a job there, and we could test it out and see what happens, or you could not come with me. And so he ended up coming with me. And again, at this point, I was supporting us. We moved back to Spokane in October. I moved into my mom's family home, which she had been staying at, but at this point she was pretty seriously dating someone. And so she actually went and started living with him full time, and I moved into her family home, and was paying her the same amount of rent that I was paying in Linwood. And this was in October of 2013, I believe. And by January, my partner still hadn't gotten a job. I was supporting us, and it was just really challenging. And I just called it, and I was like, I don't think this is going to work out. Because I am having a really hard time understanding why you don't want to work. Anyways, so he ended up moving back in with his family. And we separated, and I stayed. And then, actually during that time, my older brother was married at this time, and he had since had my nephew, and who at that time, my niece, which was his wife's child from someone else, they started living in the same house because they had gotten evicted, basically. Like I said a little bit earlier, my family, or my brother himself has had a really hard life and was always in and out of trouble, was always messing around with drugs. And I thought at this stage he had gotten over that, but come to find out, I think it was still going on. Anyways, he ended up, my boyfriend at the time moved back, and then my brother and his wife and his two kids ended up moving into the same house. And so we all lived together for about a year, until in December of that year, I bought a house, my first house, when I was 23. And it was amazing. And so I moved out. I didn't have a great even a relationship with my mom at this point. We didn't hang out a whole lot. When I moved back, when I first got my house, I started reconnecting with my dad a little bit more. It took my mom, I think, a year to come to the house that I bought. Maybe it wasn't that long, but it was a pretty long time. But my dad, came over and was like, I'm going to fix up your shrubs and I'm going to, it was so cute. It was like, yeah. So my dad came over for a good bit, for probably like the first couple of years that I had my house. I was 23. I was single. I bought the house by myself. It was so amazing. I ended up transferring. So I was still working for Fred Meyer. I just ended up transferring stores. And that's how I was able to afford it, because I had a really solid income through Fred Meyer. And so, yeah, it was a really special time for me. So this is where we'll kind of get into, I think I'm going to break it up. This is a good stopping point. It's been about an hour. So we'll leave off where I'm 23, had just bought in my first house, and we'll kind of get into some relationship challenges that showed up in this area. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening.